You guys want to hear my
Hopefully.
latest research into the world of autism?
Yeah, man.
Sure.
Lay it on us.
I've come up with an autism rating scale.
All right.
There are seven different levels of autism present on the internet, and I can categorize them by the kind of stuff that they like. I'm planning to make a video where I'm going to do just anime, like an anime autism chart, like how autistic is this anime, and like grade everything. So there's basically how autistic you are comes down to how obsessed you are with things on like a systemic level, like how much like detail and complication you either require there to be for you to enjoy something, or that you yourself read into the things you enjoy. And there's different sliding scales, like different shows have different intelligence levels, which contributes to people's ability to enjoy them. And generally, you can enjoy, like if you're a level 1 autist, you can probably enjoy things going down to level 3 autism, but any more autistic than that and it becomes harder for you to enjoy.
I see.
But there are some people who are like autistic authors who can project, like they can make stories that are less autistic than themselves. So for instance, Quentin Tarantino, probably a level 3 or 4 autist, but he makes level 2 autism works. So Quentin Tarantino movies, level 2 autism. Generally, even the general public can appreciate something as low as level 2 autism. That's like not so autistic as to be
question before
foreboding
you continue,
to the
just
average
for
general
clarification.
public.
Is
Yes.
everything on the autistic spectrum, or is there non-autistic work?
Yeah, good question.
There is non-autistic work. All anime is at least level 1 autism. There is no
Sure.
way to watch
Is,
anime with no autism.
To get a sense of scale, is somebody like Ulalilia like a 7?
He is a 6 on my scale.
What's a 7? Do you have
I'm
any
gonna go
examples?
down.
Digibro.
New
Okay, great.
storyteller.
All right.
The new
Sick.
storyteller is a 7.
I see.
So the way the scale goes is basically like this. Level 1 autism is basically where the reason that you're into anime, like Dragon Ball Z is a level 1 autism show, because the autistic elements of it are like the power levels and the fact that it's like a super long form narrative with a large cast. So like there's things to keep track of. But if you are like really into keeping track of things, you'll quickly realize that there's tons of plot holes and ass pulls and retcons, and just the story doesn't seem to care enough about itself. So if you're like autistic enough to really care about that shit, or intelligent enough, because those are all also like there's elements of the intelligence of construction. I'm planning to make a chart for like basically each show will have an autism level, an intelligence level.
It's like a political
whether it appeals
alignment
more
chart,
to
but for
masculine or
autism.
feminine
Where do these
No, yeah, I'm doing
charts?
that.
Where do these charts appear on the scale?
Yeah, good question. The charts themselves, they got to be pretty high.
Oh
up there.
yeah, no, the charts themselves are like level 3 to borderline on level 4 autism, which is where I sit. I'm like I'm like a little bit more than level 3. But like going down into level 4, which is the Evangelion tier, is level 3 autism. Like
I see.
And so basically, depending on what tier you're on, it is most likely that the things that are on that tier will be your absolute favorite things. Like, even if you find flaws in them, because they are, like, perfectly on your autism wavelength, it's like, this is my favorite thing, you know? So, for instance, something that I would put in between level 1 and level 2 autism is One Piece. One Piece gets more into level 2 because of the sheer amount of shit that there is to keep track of if you're keeping track of all of it. You don't have to keep track of all of it to enjoy the show, so it can appeal to more normie tastes as well. But people like Nate, who I would consider to be a level 2 autist, are into it for the level 2 autist reasons. I, as a level 3 autist, am into stuff like Ava that has more of a meta, like I'm more into the meta outside of the work itself. Like the involvement of its place in history, the people who created it, its like comment on itself as a work, you know, stuff like Homestuck, level 3 autism, you know? And like, even if you are level 2, you could, you know, a level 3 autism thing might be your favorite thing if it's just so good, you know? And like, you're like, yeah, I might not be quite autistic enough to love everything about this, but it's so fucking good, you know?
I have a question then, because like I'm super into Homestuck in every aspect. Like I'm a big Homestuck autist, but like I can also like look over the things that Nate can't look over in One Piece, which is less. How's that work?
I think that different people have different priorities in what they think makes the story good or bad. I think that like The level 2 autist I consider to be, okay, so here's something, there's interesting things that happen as we go down the autistic spectrum. Because on the one hand, the lower you go, the more like broad and ridiculous the systems of the story become. But also, you care less and less about it being good, like in air quotes. Like, people at like level 1 and 2 probably care the most about everything like being functional. Like they want it to be like believable in the end. Like, you know, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a perfect example of a show that like people enjoy because it seems logical even if everything happening is batshit.
No, it's not at all, and it's totally riddled with mistakes and shit.
But like so I would put that at like level 1.5 autism, you know? It's got tons of shit for you to sink your teeth into if you like the deeper stuff, but it doesn't do quite a good enough job to satisfy a level 2 autist who wants everything to be like dotted every I, cross every T. But when you get to level 3, it's where you kind of enjoy the chaos more than the order. It's like you don't even care as much about it answering all of its questions if it has just as much to say as possible. Like, Evangelion certainly doesn't answer every single question it raises, but, like, it just has so much shit in it, you know? There's so much to take in, and there's so much meta layering to it. There's so much to, like, enjoy after the fact that it adds to it for, you know, the level 3 autist. But when you get to level 4, that's when you get to, like, mega franchises and where there's, like, just huge databases of character
Gundam,
traits.
perhaps?
Like Fate. Like the Fate franchise, like where you have to consume all this, any like deep lore of a major franchise, like Star Wars lore, Star Trek lore. Like if you're reading the tie-in novels and shit, that is level 4 autism.
I see.
If you're playing like more mainstream visual novels, that's around here. But then you get to level 5 autism, and this is where you get to like the more obscure visual novels, the people who are just consuming like everything because they categorically need to have seen everything. And
it sounds like you with anime.
Well, I also want to clarify that there's a difference if you do things as a stunt or in order to talk about it. Because like I will watch shows that I not necessarily going to enjoy because it has a like career benefit to me, you know. So like there's some kind of pride tangled up in that, but like there are shows that are just like too dense for me to fucking wrap my head around. Have you ever heard of Horizon on the Middle of Nowhere?
Don't think so.
Horizon on the Middle of Nowhere is the most like over the top with like having just dozens and dozens of characters who all belong to different factions, who all have different races and powers and like different fucking magic systems, and like it's so fucking dense and complex. There's like it's a light novel that's like 600 pages in the first book and has a huge index just to keep track of what the fuck is going on. I tried to watch the anime, couldn't comprehend it. So that's what I consider level 5 autism. Level 6 autism, something happens. We crossed a warning. We're losing functionality. So
all right,
when we get to level 6, then there's two different directions that level 6 autists will take things. Either they're very strident about staying within the canon, and therefore they have found an unimaginable depth in every element of the canon. This is where we get the people who are upset about them taking Sonic's gloves away. Like, because they've ascribed a ton of meaning to Sonic's gloves because they're obsessed with Sonic, and like every part of the canon matters. Sonic, by the way, Sonic meta is level 6 autism.
Tifa's tits are 3 centimeters too small in the remake, and I will not stand for this. This is unacceptable. Her bra should not be exposed. Okay, all right, got it.
But yeah, like, but then there's the other route that they might take, which is if they don't care about the existing canon, they're going to pump as much of their own shit into the canon as humanly possible. So this is where we get like the extreme fanfic writing, and like I would say fanfics in general start at level 4 autism. Like, like if you're even writing a fanfic at all, that's pretty autistic. Like, some people who are maybe a little bit less autistic are doing it just as a way to like test their writing skills, you know. Respectable, but like if you're taking it seriously as like something that has like its own involved canon, level 4. If you're at level 6, it means that you are somebody who is maintaining like a wiki of My Little Pony YouTubers. Like that's level 6 autism. It's like an obsession of a level of obsession with the meta of everything that goes beyond it being good at all. Like it doesn't have to be good. You just have to be obsessed with it, and you'll find depth and complexity in it. So that's where I would put like Chris Chan and Ululila. And
I wish I had a soundboard right now so I could play. And this is what it means to go even further beyond.
And then level 7 is where we get to like just functional enough to use the internet, and that's where I'd put like the news storyteller, where he like clearly he's not participating in social media. He's not like, he might like read his own comments on YouTube, but he posts like 7 videos a day. He clearly lives in his parents' basement, and he plays with Thomas the Tank Engine toys. Like that is that's as autistic as you can get before you're not really consuming media anymore. You are not functioning highly enough for that. So like it could be that autism continues past level 7. I don't know how far it goes, but like any farther than that, and I can't ascribe a show to it. You know?
Sure. Okay.
So that's my 7 layers of autism. And then the other scales that you have to grade on, it's like, so each show will have an autism rating and then an intelligence level rating. And so like people who are intelligent across the board might enjoy things from different categories. And I'll also make side notes about things like Astro Boy or like the works of Osamu Tezuka. I think Tezuka was himself a level 5 autist, but all of his work is like level 2 or 3 autism, you know? Although he has some obscure works that go truly into the depths. He has some stuff that's more autistic than I think even he is, just because he was curious about it, you know?
Fascinating.
Because he wrote like 1,000 manga. He wrote lots of weird fucking shit on the side. But yeah, so that's the intelligence category. You might like the reason that normies who are really smart can enjoy Tarantino movies is like they're not as attracted to just the meta element. Like level 2 autists, they just like the movies because they're out of order and it gives you a lot of shit to keep track of, you know? Normies who are smart are just like, oh, intelligent writing, good characterization, you know? But like they're not as interested in it as like fetishistically as like a autist is, you know? So then we've got the masculine versus feminine rating, because this makes a difference as well. Like just how masculine or feminine you conceive yourself to be, or like what you enjoy out of works. You know, if you are more of a dude bro, you're gonna like more dude bro kind of shows.
Damn, I did not expect a Z axis to be added to this.
There's
equation.
another axis, because there's gonna be 2 different charts. One is the autism versus intelligence. So like there'll be one chart of like the autism level and intelligence level, and then another chart of the male versus female, as well as or masculine feminine, you know, to be politically correct. I fall, you know, like barely into the masculine side, I would say. I like lots of really feminine stuff, you know. But there's also the emotional thinker versus what was the word I wanted to
pragmatic.
use? That's a good word. Yeah, pragmatic thinker. Because there are a lot of shows are beloved because of the fact that they just have lots of information in them. And like I think of Ben as maybe somebody who likes a lot of the pragmatism in shows, a lot of like, oh, they set up this really interesting rule system, you know, and like, and it says it's built out of like realistic concepts and stuff like that. Like, I think of something like that No Game No Life scene where he removes Column's force from the universe appeals to like the pragmatic thinker who's like, oh wow, science used in storytelling, cool, you know. Whereas like emotional
it sure
thinkers,
is a neat idea, even though the execution doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
And maybe you're too pragmatic for it. Maybe it's like a little too emotional or something. But like emotional thinkers are people who more like don't really care about the logic of it as much as, you know, whatever it makes them feel. So like that would be the other axis. I think I could apply this to every anime I know of. I think I could make a reasonable deduction of how autistic is it. If anybody wants, if you have any questions, any anime you want me to put through the test, I could give you my quadrants of what I think it falls into. Does anybody have a suggestion?
Double Decker.
Well, I'm just on that last
I haven't
spectrum.
seen Double Decker,
I
so I
did
can't
think
do
comparing
that.
two series that are, I think, pretty smart, but like Technolize is probably extremely emotionally based, and then versus like Ghost in the Shell, extremely like intellectual brain based.
Yeah, you know,
exposit
I would say that
politics.
Technolize is definitely more emotional, but like it does have a
haven't
lot of
watched it, so I
interesting.
don't know.
It has a lot of like weird sci-fi concepts that come out later in the show. So like
Okay.
you'd have to have some interest in sci-fi to like get the most out of it, and like but yeah, I would definitely say it's more of like a feeling kind of show. It's more of a driven by that for
Well, you know
sure.
what's a good example of this? Fucking Space Patrol Luluco. That's like pure emotion, like no logic
Luluco
at
I
all.
would put on like level 3 autism because it's so much of it is obsessed with the meta of itself, of its own existence.
that's
you know,
true.
that like it incorporates elements from all the other Trigger shows, and it's like none of that shit even means anything to you unless you've seen all these fucking shows. So you know, it's fairly autistic, but it's also like definitely way more emotional thinker than logical thinker because none of it really makes any sense or tries to answer its own questions. It's just pure over the top, you know. Teen angst and emotions are what controls the story, you know.
Indeed.
So like, emotional thinking, probably right in the like on the line between masculine and feminine. I think it tries to appeal to both.
Yeah, I agree.
In equal measure, and intelligence level I would say is like just above average, not like high, but you know, like it plays around with some concepts and it moves really fast, so it doesn't try to like hold your hand and walk you through everything, but like yeah, so that's my rating. Level 3 autism, slightly above average intelligence, right in the middle between masculine and feminine, and what was the other paradigm I had?
Emotionally, like skewed.
Yeah, much
highly
more emotional than rational. Or
Psychopaths?
what the fuck was the
Pragmatic.
Have you seen Psychopaths?
Pragmatic. Yeah, Psychopaths I would say is like Psychopaths isn't very autistic at all, actually. It's pretty straightforward, you know? Like well, another thing I put at like level like 1.5 to 2 is like shows that play around with like real world theming, stuff like Star Trek, where like it has application to real life, because that's meta in a sense, like if that's what you care about it, which I think people who like Psychopaths would appreciate that, you know, like there's not a ton to keep track of and complications in the story, but it does make a lot of like literary references. It does like, you know, reference other movies and, you know, sort of expound on the conversation through media about the future. So like in that sense, I would say it's like level 2 autism.
A series that has tons of references should definitely like that should inch up the autism like significantly, and like maybe the intelligence a bit, but like it's just a reference that doesn't do anything smart.
Can you give me
just
an
to put it in
example
there.
of a level 0 autistic work?
A Marvel
Bible.
movie. Any like Disney Marvel movie.
Those are crunchy lore, and those have like lots of references to an extended canon, though.
Maybe Iron Man 1.
I would say that
probably.
those movies they can appeal to both. Like they're made to market to both. Yeah, I was just reminded by May writing it down. Sports is a depending on your level of engagement.
If you're into
really
like the
autistic.
fucking sabermetrics and stuff.
If you get into like fantasy football, that's like at least level 2 or 3 autism.
Yeah,
right there.
I feel like this chart is not like where would you put the thing, but like for the people who are in these brackets, what could you recommend to them?
Level 0 autism is the article in the magazine that you see in the grocery store saying that, you know, Brad and fucking Angelina are back together again.
Well, another
BuzzFeed is
important
level
thing,
0 autism.
like, if I present this whole thing, something I want to clarify is like people anywhere on the spectrum can enjoy stuff that I would categorize as anywhere on the spectrum, depending on how they engage with it. So, like, for instance, May was telling me about Warrior Cats, right? And, like, the Warrior Cats books are meant to just be, like, children's books. They're kind of autistic, you know? Like, they have a lot of factions and, like, relationships and stuff to keep track of, a lot of characters. But, like, generally, they're kids' books, you know? But there was a heavy online community for Warrior Cats, and, like, a lot of them like it because they're furries or just into, like, animal projecting themselves onto animal characters, or they're like really intent on keeping track of all the factions and like creating you know, diagrams, creating their own fan content and animations and fan fictions, making up their own OCs, and like the more of that you get into, the more autistic it becomes, the more it's like you're trying to take this story and make it more complex, make it have more to offer, because you like the aesthetic elements of it, or maybe you just haven't seen stuff that would appeal to your level of autism. Like maybe there's something that if you knew about it, you wouldn't have to, obsess over warrior cats, but you're 13 and it's, it's put in front of you. So that's just what you apply your autism to.
So there's a distinction to be made, obviously, between any individual consumer and the work itself. Could be on totally different pages. Yeah,
exactly. But I do think that there's I think there's a limit to how far out of somebody's autism range they'll generally tend towards. And what made me think about this whole chart and like my placement of everything had to do with the fact that I think I'm in a position where I'm like in the middle ground on almost all of these statistics. Like by being like level 3 autism, I can appreciate level 1 shit. I can appreciate level 5 shit. It has to get to level 6. It has to get to the level of like appreciating bad Sonic games because you can't tell the difference. That's where it's like too autistic for me, That's pretty far gone. Most people aren't that autistic. So like I'm in a good acceptable range to talk about a lot of different shit and appreciate it, And being like the hardest thing for me to appreciate is just really dumb shit, regardless of its autism level. If it's not intelligently constructed, that's the hardest thing for me to pass, But like
I gotcha.
Anything else, I'm like right in the middle of pragmatic and emotional. I'm right in the middle of masculine and feminine. I can appreciate stuff all over this spectrum. And, I from that vantage point, it's like I can look at absolutely everything and I can say, okay, I've seen all this type of show and like only these types of like the same guys who like JoJo also like all this other shit that's like the same amount of autistic, except for guys who like it for really autistic reasons, So that's kind of how I base my ranking.
I'm supposed to be working right